Hello and welcome back to Grade 9 Physics. This is the third episode. Okay, so for this episode, we have the following parts. Ask, processing activity number 60, which was done in the previous session. And it is going to be about free fall and horizontal launching of projectiles. And then the second part is gathering information about vectors. Gathering information is a section. Okay, so it's just like observe, ask, and then the third section is gather information. And this will be about magnitude and the direction of forces. And then the last part is gather information section again, sample problem on vectors. Ayan, so this is Physics 9, Session 3, still about describing the horizontal and vertical motions of a projectile. So I hope that you have your 7E-based self-learning module in Science 9 with you. Open it in Unit 4, Book 18, pages 7 to 10. Let's begin. Okay, so for the first part is ask on processing activity number 60. And I think that you also did this exact same thing. Yes, I think you also did this thing. So you put one coin on top of the foot rule that is suspended on air, and then one coin is right here on this side on the table. So when you flick the foot rule, nahulog lang to, nag-drop lang siya, and then ito naman na-launch siya horizontally. Remember, horizontally is pahalang, so it is along the table's flat surface. Na-launch siya pa horizontal. Ito naman, nag-drop lang siya. And you also observe that they both landed at the same time, right? Right. So, they had different initial velocities. Ang coin na to, right here, nag-drop lang siya from rest. So, di ba, because of inertia, it was initially at rest. So, wala siyang initial velocity. Yung i-record natin initial velocity dyan is 0 meters per second or 0 kilometers per hour because it was at rest. Nung bigla mo lang ginalaw yung ruler, doon na siya nahulog, doon na siya nagka-motion. Pero wala siyang initial velocity because it was from rest. And then yun namang coin na nasa table, oo, at rest din siya, pero nung tinamaan mo siya ng ruler, na-launch siya, okay, nilieve niya yung table, it was suspended in air with an initial velocity because it was pushed off the table horizontally. So that means, kung itong coin na to wala siyang initial velocity, ito namang coin na to, meron siyang initial velocity, pero it is with respect to the horizontal. Okay. So still, kahit na meron silang ganung klaseng pinagkaiba, they still landed at the same time. They had a difference though. When it comes to the distance they covered, one of them landed near the edge of the table. Itong isang to na una is at rest lang siya on top of the ruler, on one edge of the ruler. Nag-drop siya. Yung drop, as in exact point kung saan siya nag-drop, it is near the edge of the table. Compared dito sa isang to na nag-landing ng medyo malayo, di ba, from the table. Or mas malayo kumpara dito. Okay, di ba, with respect to the table. Okay, so, ang implication nun is ganito. Ang isang bagay, kapag halimbawa, tinrow mo siya, halimbawa, hinagis mo siya, pag ganon, yung parabola, di ba, pwede siyang gumanon. And in this case, kalahati lang ng parabola yan kasi kung titingnan mo yung motion ng coin na to, pababa, di ba, para siyang kalahati ng parabola. Ang ibig sabihin lang ng activity na to is yung kanilang motion that is along a trajectory, it has independent horizontal and vertical components. The time it needed for this coin to reach the ground is the same. It is the same time as the time this coin needed to reach to reach its landing position. Even though they landed on two different distances, they were only suspended in air at the same amount of time because their vertical and horizontal motions are independent of each other. Now, that is something that you need to think about. So what was the golden question that you had in the previous session? And in this part of this session, why don't you tell me what is the answer to your golden question? I write it down on your sheets of paper. Pero if you still haven't had the answer that you were looking for, we can move on to the next part. But for the meantime, I will leave you to your devices. Just write your answer to your own question. Go ahead. Are you through? Okay, again, if you haven't found your answer yet, let's move to the next part of this session. Okay, so gather information section, vectors. Okay, for this part, we'll be talking about magnitude and the direction of forces. Remember in grade 8, a scalar quantity only has magnitude, whereas a vector quantity has both magnitude and direction. So vectors, they have, such as force, displacement, and velocity, they have independent x and y components. Halimbawa, ang force, meron siyang force sub x and force sub y because ang isang force na na-apply with an angle with a particular direction, meron lagi siyang x component, meron siyang y component. Same for velocity, same for displacement. And when we describe these components, we use the Cartesian coordinate plane with both the horizontal x-axis and the y-axis. And I think you remember this structure, right? The middle point is 0, 0, which is also called as the origin. Yeah. So projectile motion has both vertical and horizontal components, just like forces. Halimbawa, if you apply 400 newtons worth of force, south of east with 40 degrees respect to the horizontal. Halimbawa, ayan, ito siya. Ito yung Cartesian coordinate plane mo. Quadrant 1 and 2, 3 and 4. You know that south of east is in quadrant 4, right? Yung 400 newtons, it corresponds to the magnitude of the force. Kung gaano kalaki yung size, gaano karami, gaano katindi, ka-strong yung force. That's the magnitude of the force. Whereas yung south of east naman, it corresponds to the direction of the force. Yung south, in the statement south of east, it refers to the vertical component of the force, of the vector, yung south. Yung naman east, it corresponds to the horizontal component of the vector. Ayan. So, ibig sabihin din nun, yung force na in-apply mo na 400 newtons, iba yung in-apply mo sa vertical component, iba yung vertical component nun, at meron din siyang horizontal component. Pwedeng ang in-apply mo lang pala is 380 na force with respect to the horizontal. Tapos ang in-apply mo lang pala with respect, horizontal to pala yun. So that was with respect to the vertical. Tapos yung in-apply mo pala with respect to the horizontal, ito totoo na to, is only around, say, 390 something. Diba? Okay, pwedeng hindi siya exactly 400 newtons. Okay, so to make this a bit more clear, let us have the following sample problem. Halimbawa, si Neil. Neil is cleaning his sister's room. In-apply niya is 40 newtons of force on the handle of the mop he is using that he is holding with an angle of 40 degrees with respect to the floor. So, na-imagine mo ba yon? Kung yung floor is flat, tapos, halimbawa, yung floor is flat siya. Ayan. So, meron kang 40 degrees with respect to the horizontal. So, pwede siyang banda dito. Ganun yung pagkahawak niya sa map. Or kung halimbawa, pabaliktad dito, ganito yung pagkakahawak niya sa map. So, meron siyang vertical, meron din siyang horizontal components. Okay, so itong 80 newtons of force na in-apply ni Neil, it's not the same as the amount of force he applied across the floor, which is f of x, and downward to the floor. Okay? Ang buong force na in-apply niya is 80 newtons. Pero hindi yan yung buong force na in-apply niya with respect to the horizontal and with respect to the vertical. The theta, okay, yung angle na in-apply niya, pinag-applyan niya ng force is 40 degrees. And we are looking for f of x and f of y. Okay, so you know the givens? You know what to find? Let us now note the following. Remember that to find the magnitude and direction of forces, we need to use the following trigonometric functions. Okay, so for sine, ang kinoconsider natin dyan is yung opposite side from the angle and the hypotenuse. Kapag cosine naman is yung adjacent side from the angle and the hypotenuse. And then for the tangent naman, the opposite side of, from the angle and the adjacent side from the angle. Okay? Okay. So this is also the illustration. So yung kanina, it was right here and right here. So what do you think is the reason why nandito siya? Okay, so it's because the origin, that is the point of application of force. So we're assuming it's right here. So ang gagawin natin, ibababa natin yan. Meron siyang 80 newtons of force na in-apply 40 degrees with respect to the vertical. So tama naman ito. So ang f of y is mahahanap mo siya dito, which is represented by this broken line. F of x naman is mahahanap banda dito. Okay? Okay. Okay, so for the solution, we need to look for f of x and the f in the angle and the angle are given. Yung force at saka yung angle given sila. Yung f of x is adjacent to angle 40 while the f is the hypotenuse. So yung hypotenuse and the adjacent side are involved. Okay, so the trigonometric function we'll be using will be cosine. Again, okay, the reason why we are using cosine, it's because involved yung f of x, which is adjacent to angle 40. Look at this. Okay, so this is the angle, right? The hypotenuse is this one. It's f. Tama? This angle, this side right here, representing f of y, is opposite. And then this f of x naman, this line right here, it's adjacent. So, since we're looking for the adjacent, for the value of f of x, which is adjacent to this angle, and given yung hypotenuse, which is the force applied, cosine is what we'll be using. Because meron tayong value for cosine theta, meron din tayong value for hypotenuse. Okay, so cosine theta is cosine 40. For hypotenuse, it's f, which is given. And the missing factor is f of x. Remember that since we have 3 factors and only one of them is missing, we can look for that missing factor. So you can substitute the givens, you can carry out the operations, and there you go. The amount of force na in-apply ni Neil is going to be 61.28 newtons lang. Hindi siya buong 80. It's only 68.28 newtons with respect to the horizontal. Remember, this is x. Okay, so just a little more assistance. Just type cosine 40 for you to get 0.77. And then you have to do cross multiplication, which you can do directly, or you can also, just, what shall I call that? Yeah, since this is dividing, yeah, you can just carry out cross multiplication, or if you want to straight do it 61.28, that's already fine. That's all fine. But if you want to place them again, just like this one, that's also fine. And since you are getting newtons right here, which is a value for force, right, your answer is correct. Yeah, so now it's your turn. Okay, so what you need to do is you have to solve for f of y. Okay, so remember, f of y is found as the opposite angle. Okay, opposite ang angle niya from this, from this angle. I mean, opposite side siya ng angle, tapos given yung iyong hypotenuse. Okay, so what do you think are you going to use? What trigonometric function? Okay, so carry out that operation. and then answer the question. I'll give you a moment to answer this question. What is the vertical component of the force? How much force did Neil apply downward to the floor? Okay? Okay. This is the correct answer to that question. Neil applied 51.42 newtons downward towards the floor. Did you get the correct answer? Okay. In our live sessions, I may be discussing the process for this one, pero my tip for you was you were supposed to do this by yourselves just using the model that I gave you a while ago. Okay? So repeat what we did a while ago, but think kung ano yung gagamitin nyo. Is it sine, cosine, or tangent for you to be able to know what to do. Okay. So that is it for this session number 3 of Physics 9. So the first part is Ask, section processing activity number 60, free fall and horizontal launches. And then gather information on vectors, magnitude and direction of forces. And the last part is gather information section, a sample problem on vectors. This is still Sir CJ, and we're still trying to master learning competency that is present here. Describe the horizontal and vertical motions of a projectile. Okay, this is the knowledge catalogs of Physics 9. I hope that I'll be seeing you in the next session. Have a good day.